Disciplinary processes against teachers accused of misconduct and various ethical issues have been delayed due to COVID-19. This week, the South African Council of Educators, or SACE, briefed Parliament on how hearings could not be done due to the observation of physical distancing, the closure of schools and, of course, the limitation on travel. The regulatory body for teachers says over 600 cases were opened last year. And to tell us more, we're joined by Ella Mokgalane, who is the CEO of the South African Council of Educators. Ella, thanks for being with us. Great to have you here on the program.
Thank you, Leanne.
We talk about cases. What kind of cases are we actually referring to?
As SACE, we do receive different kind of cases that are being reported by the public, parents, and also the public at large. For example, your corporal punishment cases, cases around sexual misconduct, verbal abuse cases, and other related matters. And those are the top three that I can talk about.
Okay, so what are some of the processes that you can't do, especially when it comes to the investigations that are contributing to the delays in these investigations?
Okay, when we receive our cases, one of the first things that we need to do is to investigate. An investigation means going down to the school and being in a position to talk to the teachers, but also to the children as witnesses. In certain instances, you need to have parents or any other person that can be exposed to the case. We are having challenges then in terms of getting access in the first place of those people. And secondly, because of the lockdown restrictions, we can't even travel across all the provinces. But secondly, once the investigations are done, there's a need to go through the disciplinary step. And that's where we are even more stuck, because prosecution, which needs teachers to come to the fore and also to make sure children are there as witnesses to hear their side.
Yeah.
Without having access to teachers, without children being available, there's nothing that you can do.
Have you looked into alternative methods of doing things to make sure that the cases don't get delayed for much longer? I know, from what we're hearing, that there are many instances where there aren't alternative methods, but where you can find an alternative method to move the investigations forward. Have you been able to do this?
One of the areas that we are looking at is the whole issue of virtual and online. But obviously, when you use those methodologies, you do have issues of admissibility of evidence that you are using. Obviously, you want teachers to come to the fore and be able to use their resources and also their own gadgets to come to the disciplinary hearing or into the investigation. Because we are using an adversarial approach to prosecution, you are relying on that teacher to get calm. They may put a whole lot of technical reasons because you are using an online system that may be more barriers to you being able to deal with the system. So in addition, we are benchmarking with organizations that are doing their work. The National Education Departments, obviously, they are in the same predicament. We are also looking at the Education Liberation Council, CCMA, and also courts. However, we may learn some of the things from CCMA and the courts. The only difference is that they are not dealing with school children, they are not teachers, as compared to the 9 provincial education departments and also other areas of educators. So those are the measures that we are putting in place in order to look into that. We will test and pilot the online virtual system is to an extent can be in a position to do it, because as we've observed, we may even go up to 6 or even a year with the same challenge. Therefore, Council is looking at different methods and different alternatives to make sure that we are able to deal with these cases. So, otherwise, we are delaying justice for the children, especially in cases where you have the sexual misconduct cases, and also where there's corporal punishment and whole lot of other cases.
And you do not want to get a situation where these perpetrators, if they are found guilty, get away with this because it just goes on for too long and then the case just disappears in the system. Obviously, it makes it even more difficult that the schooling system, it's still up in the air. We don't know what's going to go on, when they're going to go back. There have been provisional plans put in place, but there's nothing definite. We're still waiting to hear from the Department of Education. Will these teachers that have these pending cases against them, will they be allowed to go back into the teaching system, or will they have to stay away until their cases are actually heard?
Unlike the Department of Basic Education on the 9 provinces, or even all teacher employers, they can suspend a teacher. But SACE cannot do that because SACE is not an employer. And therefore, from our own side, yes, they will still be in schools until such time that we've dealt with the investigation, until such time that we've dealt with the hearing. Remember, you remain innocent until proven guilty, and we need to make sure that we also observe the right of those teachers. As much as we are saying they are on the wrong side of the law, we need to follow processes so that we don't find ourselves at the end of the day with our cases that are challenged in the High Court.
Yeah, that is a very worrying scenario because, you know, I'd hate a teacher that perhaps has been, accused of any sexual misconduct going back into a classroom because their court hasn't been heard or the school has decided that they don't want to suspend them. That's worrying, and I think that this gets the urgency across as to why these cases need to be heard. And, you know, I mean, can you prioritize them, just as a final question, in terms of the crime that has been committed?
Definitely. Hence I said to you, the committee that is dealing with these cases, it's looking into all other alternatives that can be utilized to deal with all these cases. It's not that council is just sitting down and say, we're waiting, we can't do anything. We are just highlighting that in line with our annual performance plan, there are certain targets that we need to achieve. However, because of COVID-19, because of the national lockdown, we may not be able to do all the cases in a manner that we wanted to. Yeah. So we were putting that up front. However, it doesn't necessarily mean we will just leave them and not do anything about it. So definitely, council is looking into that.
Okay. All right. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for talking to us. Ella Mokgalane, who is the CEO of the South African Council of Educators, talking about the delay in disciplinary process against teachers who have been accused of various cases of misconduct and the worry associated thereof that they may go back into the teaching system if those cases are not heard and if the school hasn't decided to suspend them. So this is an issue that needs to get sorted out as soon as possible.